Hey guys, it's me, Miss Norris, and today I'd like to share a fun read aloud with you of the story Hansel and Gretel. The story Hansel and Gretel was originally written by the Grimm Brothers in 1812, and this particular version comes from the Tormont Publishing Company and was put out in 1991. If you're ready to hear the story of Hansel and Gretel, I'm ready to share it with you. Here we go. Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, a poor woodcutter lived in a tiny cottage in the forest with his two children, Hansel and Gretel. Their mother had died, and the woodcutter's second wife often ill treated the children. She was forever nagging the woodcutter. There isn't enough food for us all. We must get rid of the two brats, declared the stepmother. She kept pestering her husband to abandon his children in the forest. Take them miles from home so they'll never find their way back. Maybe someone else will take them in. The unhappy woodcutter didn't know what to do. Hansel comforted his sister. Don't worry, Gretel. If they leave us in the forest, we'll find the way home. He slipped out of the house and filled his pockets with little white pebbles, then went back to bed. All night long, the woodcutter's wife nagged at her husband. At last, as the sun was rising, he led Hansel and Gretel into the forest. Hansel secretly dropped the little white pebbles on the mossy green ground. All too soon, however, the woodcutter plucked up the courage to desert them. He mumbled an excuse and was gone. Night fell. Gretel began to sob bitterly. Hansel felt scared, but tried to hide his feelings. So, kid stories weren't always so sweet. And in this particular story, there's a woodsman, and he has two children, and the children's mother has passed away, and he has a new wife, and she doesn't like Hansel and Gretel, and she tries to tell her husband to get rid of them, that there's not enough food to feed everybody, and get rid of them. Take them into the forest and lose them. And soon the woodcutter is tired of listening to the nagging, and he takes Hansel and Gretel into the forest. But you can see Hansel is leaving a trail of little white pebbles. And even though he is scared and Gretel is crying, he says, don't worry, we'll see what happens. Be brave and trust me. I'll take you home even if father doesn't come back. Luckily, the moon was full that night. Hansel waited until its cold light filtered through the trees. Now give me your hand, he said to Gretel. We'll get home safely, you'll see. The tiny white pebbles gleamed in the moonlight, and the children found their way home. They crept in through the half-opened window without waking their parents and slipped into bed. The next day, when their stepmother discovered that Hansel and Gretel had returned, she flew into a rage. Why didn't you do as I told you? She shrieked at her husband. The weak woodcutter was torn between shame and the fear of disobeying his cruel wife, who kept Hansel and Gretel under lock and key all day. They had nothing to eat but a crust of bread. All night the woodcutter and wife quarreled. That's another word for we're having a little argument. But when dawn came, the woodcutter once again led the children into the forest. Hansel, however, had not eaten his bread. As he walked through the trees, he left a trail of crumbs behind. But the little boy had forgotten all about the hungry birds. They flew along the trail and in no time had eaten all the crumbs. Dun, dun, dun! Again, the woodcutter left the children with a lame excuse. I've made a trail like last time, Hansel whispered to Gretel. Alas, when night fell, they saw to their horror that all of the crumbs had gone. I'm frightened, wept Gretel bitterly. I'm cold and hungry, and I want to go home. So, the stepmother was not happy to find Hansel and Gretel at home, but Hansel had indeed led Gretel back home. But the stepmom made it clear that she needed those kids to be gone, and the woodcutter took them back into the forest. And again, Hansel left a trail, but this time he didn't have time to get little white pebbles. And as we can see, the little birds were also very hungry and ate Hansel's trail. And now Gretel is very scared and cold and hungry, and she wants to go home. Don't be afraid. I'm here to look after you, said Hansel. But he shivered at the deep shadows and glinting eyes in the darkness. All night the two children huddled together for warmth at the foot of a large tree. When dawn broke, they wandered about the forest looking for a path. Hope soon faded. They were well and truly lost. On and on they walked until suddenly they came upon a curious cottage in the middle of a glade. They drew closer to the little house. Why, this is chocolate, gasped Hansel as he broke a lump of plaster from the wall. And this is icing, exclaimed Gretel, putting another piece of wall in her mouth. Starving but delighted, the children began to eat pieces of candy broken off the cottage. Isn't this delicious? Said Gretel, with her mouth full. We'll stay here, declared Hansel. Hansel declared. They were just about to try a piece of the biscuit door when it swung quietly open. An old woman with a crafty gleam in her eye peered out. Well, well, aren't you the sweet-toothed little darlings? Come in, you've nothing to fear, cackled the crone, opening the door wide. So Hansel and Gretel huddled together through the night, and in the morning decided to walk around and look for a way home. And they didn't find a way home, but they did find a little cottage. And when they walked up, they realized that parts of it were made of chocolate and parts were made of icing. And they were just about to try the door, which is made out of, they call it a biscuit, but that means a cookie, when an old woman came out and said, "Oh, come in. You don't have to be worried here." Do you think she's telling the truth? What would you do if you were walking somewhere? I'm not lost. But what if you were walking and you came upon a house that was made of candy? Do you think you would try it? I'm not sure if I would. I'd have to knock and ask permission, I think. No sooner were they inside than the witch, for it was indeed a witch, grabbed Hansel and squeezed his arm. "You're nothing but skin and bones. I'll have to fatten you up," she snorted, locking him in a cage. "And you can do the housework," she told Gretel grimly. "Then I'll make a meal of you too." As luck would have it, the witch had very weak eyes. "Let me feel your finger," she would say to Hansel every day to check if he were any fatter. But Gretel had given him a chicken bone and smeared the witch's spectacles with butter. When the old woman went to touch his finger, he held out the bone instead. "Much too thin," she would complain. One day the witch grew tired of waiting. "Light the oven," she told Gretel. "We're going to have a tasty boy for dinner." A little later, the impatient old crone snapped, "Run and see if the oven is hot yet." Gretel returned whimpering, I, I can't tell if it's hot enough. Nitwit, the witch screamed. I'll see for myself. She bent down to peer inside the oven. Gretel gave her a tremendous push and slammed the door shut. There was a screech and a sizzle, and that was the end of the witch. Gretel ran to free her brother. Just to be on the safe side, they fastened the oven door with a large padlock. The children feasted on the candy house until they discovered a huge chocolate egg. They broke off a piece. There inside lay a casket of gold coins. We'll take the treasure with us, said Hansel. The two children filled a large basket with food and set off through the forest in search of their home. Luck was with them, and on the second day they saw their father coming toward them weeping. Oh, thank God I've found you, he cried. Your stepmother is dead. Come home with me now, my dear children. Hansel and Gretel hugged their father with all their might. Promise you'll never desert us again, said Gretel. Look, father, said Hansel, opening the casket. We're rich now. You'll never have to chop wood again. And so they all lived happily ever after. The end. So the witch put Hansel in a little cage and was trying to fatten him up, but she couldn't see very well. And so Gretel gave him a chicken bone and she put butter on the witch's glasses. So she kept saying that he was too thin. And when he's too thin, she doesn't want to eat him. But one day she gets impatient. She says, we're going to eat him anyways. And when she asked Gretel to check the oven, Gretel said, I don't know how to tell if it's right. She's not very old. She doesn't know how to tell if an oven is hot enough. And how do you know if an oven is hot enough to cook a friend? So the witch goes to check, and Gretel, seeing her only way out, pushes her into the oven and locks the door. And the next day, then she goes and frees Hansel. They eat as much of the house as they can and load up a basket with more food. But in the meantime, they discover a big chocolate egg filled with gold coins. So they fill their basket with the gold coins and food and start trying to find their way home. And in the meantime, they got very lucky, and on the second day, they see their dad. And their dad is very happy to see them. The stepmother is no longer there, and the dad promises to never desert them again. And now they have money, and they're all together again, and they live happily ever after. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you really enjoyed the story of Hansel and Gretel. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button at the bottom of the page. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. If you're not a subscriber yet, please click that subscribe button down at the bottom of the page. And don't forget to click the bell so that you're notified when there's new content. I hope to see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.